All right, everybody, we're going to talk about influencer marketing, social media marketing, what brands can do in 2025 to basically focus on social media, their ads, their full funnel content. So, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, but mainly on creator content, on short form videos, on Instagram or TikTok, and of course, running ads and driving bottom line sales. So, today I have Joshua Mok with me. I like to say that he's the right hand man of my business. Josh, maybe you can do a quick intro.
Yeah, for sure. Love to. Thanks, Joel, for having me in this show. A little bit about my background is that I was a Malaysian. I mean, I'm still a Malaysian right now. It's just that right now I've been moving to Singapore for, I think, 6 years now. Started everything as a chemical engineer, but I quickly realized that I don't enjoy working as an engineer. And from there, COVID happened and I managed to start my own business, which is previously we were starting an animation business. And I would say it's a blessed journey, right? Scaled it within 3 years and we managed to sell off the entire company last year, November. So then happened to meet up with Joel and right now working together, we can bring Social Jet, the agency, to the next level.
Yeah, I think Josh has an incredible story. He basically contacted me last year in December. We found each other online. He just exited his company back then, very fresh. He told me he was traveling the world a little bit, and then within the first couple of weeks, he said he got bored, right? And he was, itching to do something after exiting his company. So, yeah, Josh, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think people really move around the world and try to travel as much as we can, right? I listen to everyone that say, if let's say you exited a business, probably you can try to enjoy the retirement life and whatnot, right? So like what I shared with Joel earlier on, 2 days in after I leave the company, I was moving around trying to get to the shopping mall and basically, enjoy the retirement kind of life, right? But 2 days in, I realized it's so bored.
Just 2 days?
2 days.
Okay.
I won't go more than 2 days, right? 2 days is more than enough already. I got so tired of it, and this is why I started looking online and see, is there any other better thing that I can play around with, I can enjoy working together with? And this is why I found you online.
Yeah, I don't think he's kidding because we just finished our Bali team retreat. And I remember one of the team members saying, "Wow, Josh cannot, he cannot seem to chill. He can't seem to relax. Going out, having meals together, going to beach clubs, you're having fun in Bali, and then he's always on his phone, always like doing something, right? He just can't seem to stop and just relax." So that's what we noticed about Josh. We're going to talk about many different things today. Just to start off this pod session today, maybe we can talk about, you spoke to many different brands, business owners, specifically on how to solve their different marketing issues with social media marketing, different formats of how they can advertise. What's one thing you think that would be the worst thing a brand can do today when they work with influencers or content creators?
I think the one thing that really came out on my mind is that there's a lot of time that people tend, especially small business owner, right? They tend to be very micromanaged, right? This is what we realize. The smaller the company you are, the boss, the owner generally like to micromanage everything, right? They'll be like, okay, even though you are a huge influencer or even though you are smaller influencers, they don't care, right? They want to get involved in every single thing. So imagine this, right? If let's say today I'm an influencer and I'm more towards a humorous kind of influencers, right? Then the owner might say something like, hey, this doesn't work. I want you to be more serious. I want you to take everything more serious. Now, the thing is that if let's say the influencers try to adapt to what the owner is saying, right? Probably the content that's being produced is not going to be as good as what they usually do, right? So I think that's the biggest red flag, biggest mistake that a lot of business owners tend to do when they try to engage any influencers.
Yeah, I think trusting the process, that is what
Right.
a lot of them, they have to get used to. For me, the worst thing a brand can do when they work with influencers is thinking that they will be the magic bullet or the silver bullet to all their marketing issues. I think being in this space for almost 10 years right now, usually when we look at the full marketing funnel, we see a lot of leaky funnels, leaky systems, leaky websites, even leaky offers, right? And no one single bullet can solve so many of these issues, right? But for a lot of our clients and brands that we work with, if they have a very solid offer, they have a very solid website, they have a very solid checkout flow, for example, I think influencers can definitely do a lot to boost that, to get them to the right audiences and to bring targeted sales if they have a very solid back end, right? Of course, when we work with different brands, we try to look at the full funnel, try to advise and consult on many different elements. But I think in general, the worst thing a business owner can do is to optimistically think that influencers can solve a lot of their various marketing issues, which sometimes it can, but most often we take a step back and we see the full funnel before we really try and diagnose what is the real solution that we can provide. And sometimes it may not necessarily be only influencer marketing, of course.
Of course, the influencer can help up to a certain point, right? They can help you with the promotions. They can help you with the shout out. They can share whatever you want to the mass market audience, right? But at the end of the day, it really depends on, you are running a business, right? Would you be able to cope with the amount of people that the influencers is bringing in, right? Let's say we are running an influencer campaign. We drive the traffic over there, but whether or not you will be able to convert into the sales, that's another thing, right? A lot of business owner and some of the brands owner, right? They think that, okay, I'm getting the influencers, and what I need is that I want to see actual conversions. It's not that we can't do that, but a lot of time it have like what you mentioned just now, right? It has got a lot of things to do with the back end solutions, including how your salespeople follow up, how your salespeople is going to close the deal and whatnot. There's a lot of things involved.
Moving on to the next question, right? Influencers versus ads, right? Which one really sells better?
Well, if I would be honest, right, just imagine that everyone who are watching this, right? Imagine that today in 2025, right? You saw an ad, whether is it static ads or whether is it some moving things with like promotions, big clearance sales, 50% discount and whatnot, right? Chances are you are not really going to click on it. At least not me lah. Even if I saw that kind of ads, I wouldn't probably go and click on it. But if let's say someone that I actually enjoy seeing their content, let's say influencers or some people that I generally know of, right? They share about something, then chances of me clicking in to watch the entire content is very much higher. I would say influencers content works generally better than traditional ads.
Okay. For me, if I look at organic influencer content versus your paid media, your paid ads, I think to drive bottom line results, it would definitely always be done via paid media, which means paid ads. I've seen it time and time again where the organic content of influencers do not bring in the bottom line results. It's always when we drive it on paid media, then we can track proper CTAs, we can do proper data tracking, a lot of metrics that we can optimize and tweak for. But without ads, I don't think influencer content can take it. You can take influencer content one step further, right? So ads is, for us, it's a critical thing that that we cannot skip. In fact, something that we always push for every single brand partner that we work with. We are super adamant that they have to use ads to drive the influencer content much further.
I agree with what you just said, right? I think earlier on, remember, we did a boot camp in Amara Hotels, right? We have sessions over there. I did a sharing that, a lot of results, right? It tends to happen only when you're running ads. So let's say I would compare static ads and kind of like really traditional ads, right? Comparing to influencers content, definitely I think influencer content would deliver a much better result, right? But adding on to what you said just now, even if we have influencer content already, that's more towards the organic side, right? If brands want to see actual results, like what you mentioned just now, like they won't be able to run away from ads. I believe that organic kind of results, right, is unpredictable, right? I think that time, funny enough, during the sharing sessions to all the business owner, right, I think I asked these questions. Let's say a particular campaign, we're working with 10 influencers, right? Each of them have, let's say, 15K followers. 10 of them, what would the audience reach be, right? A lot of people will say 150K. That's mathematically, it's correct.
It's an amateur figure.
Yes. But at the end of the day, let's say the actual number of reach, 20%, 30%, it's already considered pretty good.
Organically, yeah.
Yes. So like I said, it could be 20%, it could be 30%, it could be way lesser, it could be way higher, right? So it's really unpredictable. So at the end of the day, really want to see the results, they have to somehow convert the influencers' content into ads.
Yeah, ads is a more predictable way of driving their bottom line goal. I'll give you two examples, right? Today I had a conversation with one of our prospective brands. He said, okay, I have no choice now but to work with you. He jokingly said that. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, okay, because I saw all your ads everywhere. I'm familiar with you. And now that you've texted me, then I think I'm interested. So actually, he already knows us. He also knows me, not personally, but through the content, the ads that we put out, right? So when I had a conversation with him, coincidentally, he already saw my content. So that helped the conversation way better because he already seen me online. He knows who I am. He knows our agency. He knows our team. So that didn't take much convincing. And in our line of business, we don't try to convince. We just share our solutions. And then, hopefully a lot of these brands will see the benefit of that. Another example I will give is for this beautiful studio we're in. We've seen a lot of their ads around actually, but never actually booked this spot. And then one of the founders DM'd me on LinkedIn and they reached out and then I was like, okay, let's tour the place. And then Josh nicely mentioned that, hey, let's just shoot a pod there as well. So we are here because of that LinkedIn outreach, but more importantly, also because we've been seeing ads all around. So it's already a warm brand to us. It's already a warm messaging to us. So yeah, let's drive the way for us.
Yeah, but just a disclaimer, this is not a sponsor podcast. Yeah.
we can talk about it. Okay, next question. the 3 types of influencers that every brand should work with. Okay, what are the common types of influencers that every brand should work with then?
I don't think there's really any influencers that every industry, every brand should work with. I think it really depends on what industry you are at, right? Whether you are a service-based business or you are a product-based business. And of course, what kind of message that you generally want to push it out on the market itself.
I think echoing what you said, right? For me, I like to look at the influencer strategy. Sometimes what I try to implement for different brands is the barbell strategy. So on one hand, we have heavy hitters, right? The big names of influencers, the macro names, maybe influencers with 80,000 followers, 100,000 followers, even some celebrities as well. So for brands that can afford it, then yes, have on one hand, the big names. On the other side of the barbell, the other side that I would like to push for is also the micro and nano influencers, which, as you know, our agency is super big on, right? So a lot of these micros can support the content pillars. So how I like to look at it is, typically if you look at the budget or the costing, 10 micro influencers can mean one macro influencer, right? So I wouldn't purely just focus on celebrities or macro influencers, but I also definitely want to look at nanos and micros. Now, not every brand should, in my opinion, engage celebrities and macro influencers. Number one, because they're expensive. Number two, because with that same amount of money, you can get a lot more content from smaller names, right? So it really depends on your brand goal, on the different kind of metrics you want to drive. But to me, sometimes when I look at the overall strategy, some brands that can afford and it makes sense for them, then I will implement the barbell strategy both on macros and also micros and nanos.
I think probably just to add on a little bit, right? Every time when I was talking to prospect or even our existing clients, what I will always tell them is that, there's always a lot of good benefit that we see when it comes to working together with, whether it's in nano influencers or even micro influencers, right? Why? Because think about this, right? For the same amount of investment that we're putting into these marketing campaigns, right? We can generally get a lot more different faces, right? In any marketing and sales is kind of different. Sales is like you close the deal, you get the income right on the spot, right? But marketing is kind of like a long game. So for the same amount of investment, let's say 20K, 30K, whatever, right? For the same amount of investment, you can generally get a lot more different faces. The more faces we have, the more kind of different content we can create. The more different content we create, the more hooks, the more call to action we can play around with. So at the end of the day, it's just about volume game. The more we can test around with, the more optimum kind of result we can get it for ourselves, for our clients.
How to make influencer content actually convert, right? Not just go viral. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is the questions every business owner want to figure out, right? A lot of time when I talk to the brand's owner, some people, generally speaking, right, they still prefer to have views and likes and whatnot, right? But at the end of the day, once they're clear that, okay, the campaign is supposed to be sales driven, supposed to be traffic driven, supposed to be sales conversion driven, then they'll start paying attention on that.
I think like what you said, right? Viral views are super important. A lot of business owners, they prioritize the vanity metrics like your views, your likes, your shares, all the engagement. I think that's great. But I think a lot of business owners also want to drive their bottom line goals, right? The things that actually can convert. I like to tell people that if you have 500,000 views on TikTok, but if it doesn't convert to, $500,000 in your bank account or in your business bank account, then that is just empty views, right? So I think if you ask any business owner, would they rather have 500 orders on their website or 500,000 views on TikTok? I think it makes more sense to have 500 orders or 500 new customers, right? So even if you have 500,000 views on whichever channel, whichever platform you're running on, but they do not convert, I don't know if that's actually a successful social media strategy. What do you think?
No, I agree with that, right? There's one line that I always remind myself and I talk to anyone that I know of, as long as they're in the business, is that whatever investment that you're putting in for your company, for your business, right, it have to make a certain amount of return back. That's one thing I love saying to myself again and again is that if let's say whatever you're doing right now is not getting back in terms of revenue, right? You don't actually have a business. You just have an expensive hobbies. This is what I always remind myself. So circling back to what you were saying, right? Definitely when it comes to sales conversions for influencers campaign, right? I would list it at a top priority. Yeah.
I mean, for us, after running so many different campaigns, ad campaigns, organic influencer content, we've seen it time and time again where we don't need the content to go viral to actually drive bottom line results. What do I mean by that? Even if an organic video piece, when our influencer post is out, has 30,000 views, not fantastic, 30,000 is all right. But when we run it on ads using the same content piece, suddenly we were converting, at really, really lower cost than the benchmark at, right? So then it became a very successful campaign because when they started bringing in views 30,000 on the organic channels, there weren't much responses, right? Some good views, but nothing that was groundbreaking. Then when we started running the content on ads, that's when we saw the orders come in, the new customers come in, and that's when the client doubled down on their spends and wanted to further the campaign with us. So yeah, you don't need your content to go viral to actually drive results.
Yeah, and circle back to this, right? This is exactly why with the existing client that we have, right? We always push them to go one step further rather than just stop at influencers organic content, because like what you rightly mentioned, right, there's a lot of time we see a lot of good content on doing well on organically, right, but when you launch ads, it might not perform that well. Most of the time that organic content might not seems to be doing so great, but the moment you run ads, right, you reach a bigger audience, right, then suddenly you see, hey, how come this time around is different? So the result is much better. So what we suggest to all our brands, all the business owners out there, and especially those who are working together with us, right, let's not just stop at the influencers organic content. Go one step further, run the ads, and you'll probably get a surprise from there.
How would you advise business owners to take advantage of the influencer videos? So for example, if they are spending X amount on an influencer campaign to get, 20, 30 different influencers to create videos, right? And then the video goes live, it gets posted, and then maybe the campaign is over, right? How would you suggest to business owners to maximize all the videos, all the content? What are some repurposing strategies that they can use?
Because I think what I believe, right, it's a success leaves clue. Right? It's just that if let's say we are doing influencer content on Instagram, for example, right? If let's say the influencer's content is working pretty good at Instagram, right? Chances are, if let's say you cross-post it to TikTok, Xiaohongshu, Lemonade, and whatnot, right? Chances are it is also going to do pretty good. That's what I realized. So in terms of really maximizing all the influencers' content, we will usually suggest to the brand itself, right? If let's say you realize that this content is doing pretty good on one specific platform, right? Get the content, repurpose it, right? The simplest way is that you just cross-post to the other platform, right? Of course, maybe down the road, you see something, hey, this one could be removed from the video itself. You can chop it into different pieces, then you post it on other social media platforms as well. Long story short, the bottom line is squeeze every single thing out of it. That's my philosophy. Yeah.
I think for business owners, they definitely want to do that as well, the savvy ones. For me, repurposing, stretching one content element to repurpose to many, many different elements. One video posted on Instagram can be, cut short to be placed on your website, to be used on ads, to be used in compilation videos, to be used on your email marketing channels, could be taken as a screenshot or used as a photo, as a social proof on your website, or even on, let's say you're selling on Shopee, on different marketplaces. That can be your additional social proof element coming from a verified influencer. Of course, for the brand side, you have to ensure that you are, of course, following the content usage rights. You cannot, just take the content and just repurpose it anywhere. So you have to be mindful of what kind of rights you have for the influencer's content. Because the last thing the influencer want is, they suddenly see their face all over ads when they were not informed. So that's how I would see it. But yes, definitely repurpose their content on ads. That is definitely a must do.
Yeah, I think to add on, right, there's one client of ours, right? They are super smart. Apart from just, repurposing to different platform, chopping into different pieces, rather smaller pieces, and post it across the social media, right? There's one thing they are pretty smart is that in front of their retail store, right? I mean, if let's say you go to shopping mall, there's quite a lot of beauty, salon, and whatnot, right? Nails kind of shops, right? They have a lot of like a big TV in front of a retail outlet, right? So they're pretty smart. They use the content and showcase in the TV itself. Then people walk by, I was like, wow, there's so many influencers visiting this outlet itself. So I thought that could be one of the things to squeeze it out.
Okay. A day in the life at Social Jet. What is it like for you, Josh?
It's pretty straightforward, I guess. Usually when we first wake up, right, I try to not to involve in a lot of those daily activity like replying email and whatnot, right?
So you don't reply emails?
I do reply email, but it's not immediate, right? It could be WhatsApp, maybe. WhatsApp, I think it's more, because generally you're just scrolling on the WhatsApp, right? And you reply some of the message. It looks okay to me. Okay. But asking me to wake up right after I had my breakfast and sit in front of computer and start replying email, that looks a little bit, I don't know, a little bit hectic for me.
Okay, so how do you set your intentions for the day then?
Yeah, intention for the day is very simple, right? I try to accomplish a lot of things that is easier, right? I know out there's a lot of people that say, I think there's something called eat the frog or what. So basically you try to finish up things that is tough, right? Okay. So once you accomplish something tough, then you give yourself a lot more confidence, a lot more motivation to take what is easier. But for me, I prefer to have small wins, right? So this is what I mean. Like, I'll do something easier. For example, okay, I have to invoice these clients, right? For example, I have to do a quick hello message to the clients. So I'll do all these simple things first. So by the time I finish up all this, right? By the time I want to tackle into something that is slightly more challenging, it gives me a lot more confidence and motivation.
Okay. Well, for me, I start my day, I think, at about 7:30. Sometimes I start my day off with a gym. Not always, sometimes. Then back to my computer, either coffee already in hand or a yogurt bowl. And then, yeah, I clear my emails at the start of the day. Either I start with emails or my WhatsApp business messages, either one. But all the pressing issues typically get solved at the start of the day. And then any calls that are urgent, I try to push it maybe a bit like 10 a.m., 2 hours after I started my day. Of course, very urgent calls, then I start immediately. But if not, my preference is to have calls more towards noontime or afternoon period so that I have my first morning block to really focus on more high level stuff that are more pressing, that are more urgent. And then lunch at your typical timing, typically 15, 20 minutes for lunch. If it's with a prospect or a client, then maybe an hour, 30 minutes, an hour. Yeah.
But I'm curious, right, Joel, do you usually spend your time together with a client? Let's say having breakfast together with them, having lunch, having dinner, supper?
I try to make it worth both our times, right? So if you're meeting, then yeah, let's meet over coffee, let's meet over lunch, even breakfast, right? Typically, I don't have breakfast with clients, but lunch, yes, dinners definitely, drinks occasionally. For you today, you had both breakfast and lunch together with them, right?
Yeah, I mean, morning 9 a.m., we started off a breakfast sessions together with a client. And then lunch, again, it was literally just beside the clients that I met in the morning, right? So I had a lunch together with them and talk about the details and whatnot. Lah. Personally, I'm that kind of piece of, maybe I'm a little bit old man kind of people, I would say, I prefer having a face-to-face meeting so you can have a better human connection. So that's what I usually do. So if let's say the client, of course, you have to make sense. You cannot be asking me from all the way from, let's say, CBD area, fly until like Woodlands side just to have I don't know, a egg tart or what, then doesn't make sense.
Definitely, I love in-person meetings, in-person conversations. But when the week is very full, the day is very full, then I always opt for a Zoom meeting, which is way more efficient sometimes. Okay, next question, right? I'm sure this question has been asked a lot to you by business owners, likewise to me as well. But I'll let you handle it first. What makes our agency different? What sets us apart from the rest?
I believe it's got a lot of difference when it comes to the approach, right? There's a lot of agency out there, not going to name the name, of course, but typically speaking, they are more like a part-by-part solution provider. What do I mean by that is that they could be helping you with the influencer shortlisting, but they're not helping with the content creations. They could be helping with the content creations, but they're not helping you to run the ads, right? It could be maybe they run the ads for you, but they don't take care of optimizing it. So I think in our agency, what we are generally better is where we provide a one-stop solutions, right? Typically, think about this, right? Today, if let's say you are a business owner, you're already loaded with so many things on your shoulder, right? Then somehow you have to spend your time licensing influencers, negotiating the rate, managing them, drive them down for events and whatnot. Then somehow on top of that, you have to think about the content creation, the content executions. Everything takes huge amount of effort. So I think what we stood out is really that we will be able to handle everything at one go, so that it's completely in-house, completely fully managed by us. Then at the end of the day, the brands that we are working with, they don't have to take any heavy lifting all by us.
Yeah, I think what you rightly called out, the heavy lifting. To be honest, influencer marketing is not rocket science, right? Brands can go and reach out to influencers. Brand can go and experiment with their own campaigns. But I think why a lot of brands, still come to us and still explore other solution providers when it comes to influencer marketing is because they want someone to do the full heavy lifting for them, the full end-to-end service. And I think what sets us apart, if I can humbly say, is we are really full funnel, right? We don't just focus on organic influencer content. And when we say we run the paid media, we run the paid ads, we actually do, right? We have tons of case studies where we executed many, many successful paid media campaigns across Meta, across TikTok, different formats as well, with influencer content for our different clients, different industries, right? There are some agencies that claim that, they do ads, but when it comes to actual case studies, actual success stories, it's quite thin, to be honest. So for us, we are super adamant on using paid ads with the influencer content. We invest heavily in that. And to be honest, when the clients spend money on ads using the influencer videos that we create, we can actually show them and pinpoint much more accurate data, much more higher level metrics that we can share apart from the vanity, the top line metrics that is coming from the influencer, that is coming from the influencer's insights as well. So yeah, I think that's what mainly sets us apart. And yeah, Yeah.
I agree with that. Like, I don't know whether you recall, right? I think a few months back then, I think probably by February, we had an exhibition at Marina Bay Sands. Remember, there's a lot of business owners come to us and ask us something like, how are you guys different compared to the other agency out there, right? And then the more we talk to them, the more we realize a lot of them, right, they don't actually have a tracking system, right? They will be able to know, okay, how many views do they get, how many likes, how many shares, how many comments. But generally speaking, right, anyone who are running a business, you know that all this thing doesn't convert into revenue. All this thing doesn't mean that you have a lot of likes, you have a lot of share, doesn't mean that you get a lot of revenue, right? So the more we talk to the people, the more we are confident in what we are doing in terms of tracking every single metrics down to how many traffic we are bringing in, how many sales conversion that we are able to get for the brands. At the end of the day, I think what business owner or brands owner really want, it's not just the views, it's not just the vanity metrics, but they want to know exactly for every single dollar that they invested in us, how much they're getting back in return. Yeah.
I think that's really, really important. I think a lot of the brands, when they first venture or experiment with influencer marketing, whether it's in-house or via an agency or freelancer or whatsoever, right? I think a lot of them, they waste money on picking the wrong influencers, right? They assess influencers purely based on their follower count or maybe their basic engagement rate, right? I think one thing that a lot of marketers and brand owners can do a bit deeper is to go look at their first party data or even third party data, right? There's many tools, many apps that one can use, and even asking the influencers for specific insights that they should share in order or before you engage them for a campaign. Brand owners, business owners, marketers, when they see their top line data that is already verified, then they will really know, okay, is this influencer really the right fit for my brand, really the right fit for my audience, really the right fit for my product? I wouldn't name drop specific influencers, but we've seen it time and time again. Big influencers, we look at their actual data first party. We actually see that, a lot of their followers are not even based in Singapore, right? So if your brand is only selling in Singapore or your market is only here in Singapore, and let's say 30 or 40% of the followers are not even based here, then organically, you know that the results are going to definitely not perform as well, right? But if, of course, you use the content to run paid media, then sure, yes. If you use this influencer's face to use as social proof, then yes, there's another strategy there. But if you are expecting organic conversions, and then when you look at their first party, third party data that you can run through, and it's not strong enough, then you're really burning, all your budget on blindly selecting influencers. And I think a lot of business owners actually unknowingly do that.
Yeah, totally agree. The thing is that the more we talk to the prospect, right, the more we realize, right, a lot of people, they don't even know why is it so important to select the influencers based on also their followers' locations, right? Usually when we hop on a call with a client, right, generally this is what I love to ask. I love to ask things like, you have a product right now, right? What kind of product you're selling and what kind of target audience you are targeting and in which area that you plan to sell your products. Then they will be like, of course I want to do global. Everyone want to go global, right? But before you go global, let's focus on local first, right? So usually if let's say they say, okay, I want to start off by targeting, let's say Singapore, right? Then I will usually tell them, okay, so this is important that the influencers that you're selecting, it have to make sense when it comes to the audience locations. Like what you rightly mentioned just now, right? If let's say we are doing a campaign in Singapore and we are targeting the buyer in Singapore, let's say the influencers follower are all around the world, Dubai, Philippines, Malaysia and whatnot, then at the end of the day, sad to say that it doesn't convert.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie, the data will never lie. Okay, Josh, micro-influencers or celebrities, and why?
I'm not sure if this is going to offend a lot of bigger names of influencers out there. I hope you guys don't mind, but this is what we observe over the years. And even, again, we have influencers to talk about this. She herself is a huge influencer, right? But I think generally speaking, micro-influencers will deliver the better results. I'll explain why, right? Think about this, right? If today, let's say, Joel, you are a mega influencer with more than millions of followers.
Not true, but yes.
If let's say you are just promoting, I don't know, promoting this watch, right? Then everyone was like, wow, Joel is promoting this watch. Chances are this is a paid campaign, right? Joel is getting paid by promoting this stuff, right? This is one thing I love to share with all the people out there, right? Is that people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. The moment that people know that, okay, you're trying to sell me something simply because you're getting paid, then people are not engaging that much, right? Comparing if let's say today, again, I'm not influencers, but let's say I'm a smaller influencer, let's say a micro influencer with more than 10K followers, right? I'm promoting this brand, this watch, and I was saying like, okay, this watch is pretty good, right? My wife bought it for me and I love that. So every single day I'm using it. Then people will think it as, oh, this is authentic, this is genuine. Joshua is just trying to share what he loves, right? Then chances are the content is going to engage much better. So the moment the engagement is better, the chances are the close is easier. So the conversion will be higher. Lah.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree with that. For me, how I view it is not every brand requires a big celebrity influencer to endorse them, but every brand can benefit from that. So, what I mean by that is if you have raised money or you have a lot of deep pockets and you're willing to invest in big names to endorse your brand, then go for it, right? But I think a lot of small to medium brands, they are very mindful of the costs and they, of course, want to stretch every dollar. And if that is you, then definitely you want to focus a bit more on the nano, micro, mid-tier influencers who can really stretch the content value much more than one single celebrity macro influencer can, right? Certain brands make sense to bring in a big name, right? If let's say the industry or the product you're selling or the industry that you're in, there's a lot of distrust, there is a lot of fear, there is a lot of bad negative stuff around it, then yes, having a big name to endorse you gives you that social proof, that very strong backing, right? But I think for a lot of brands, a lot of businesses that we speak to, I think micros and nanos are doing way more than a celebrity or big name could do with the same amount of money. Of course, we compare apples to apples. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Xiaohongshu for a minute, right? I think Xiaohongshu, personally, I think it's an under-leveraged platform. At our agency, we have tried to convince business owners that, hey, Xiaohongshu, it's an under-leveraged platform. There's a lot of brands still not on there. There's more than 800,000 people in Singapore using the platform as of this moment. So even if the platform is way smaller than Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it's still a platform that shouldn't be, overlooked, right? But somehow a lot of business owners still don't seem to buy in on Xiaohongshu. Josh, you spoke to many people on that. What are your thoughts?
I think Xiaohongshu, the play game is different compared to whether is it Meta or is it TikTok, right? Meta and TikTok, generally speaking, they are more like it's a social media platform at the end of the day, right? But people are hopping onto the platform just scrolling, right? Non-stop scrolling without a fixed purpose, without a fixed intention that, okay, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to get it out from the social media platform itself? But Xiaohongshu is different. Think about it. Usually people go on a Xiaohongshu, right? They have a certain intention already. Like me, for example, if let's say on a weekend I want to have I want to get a good dinner together with my wife, right? But I don't know what to eat. So I just go to Xiaohongshu and find for good food to eat in Singapore. Of course, in Chinese. Then
Okay, so F&B as a use case.
yeah, F&B as a use case. So usually once I type in what kind of food, what kind of dinner in Singapore, best to try, then it come out with a lot of different videos, right? So what I would do, I'll just bookmark all of them. Then I tried it one by one. So
You bookmark every single video that you like on Xiaohongshu and then you try it one by one.
yeah, that's exactly what I do. I mean, weekend it's supposed to be more relaxing, right? I still work sometime over the weekend, but yeah, weekend usually dinner time, we'll just get every single one by one and we test it out literally one by one on Xiaohongshu. But coming back to your questions, I think Xiaohongshu is a different play game and it's under leveraged platform, right? Think about this. How many of these people are coming from mainland China to Singapore? Generally speaking, all of them, if not most of them, are having a slightly deeper pockets, right? And if you are not targeting them, because think about this, right? Those Chinese from mainland, right, they move to Singapore, chances are they will stick to the same platform they are familiar with, right? One of it is Xiaohongshu for sure, right? They're still using the Xiaohongshu. So if let's say brand owner or business owner, you are still not targeting that apps to do your promotions, I would just say that you are leaving a lot of money on the table.
Under leveraged for sure. Under leveraged. I think Meta is very priced in. TikTok is starting to get priced in. Xiaohongshu is still a quiet little animal in the background. But yeah, I think it's an under leveraged platform. You did this segment at our recent bootcamp where we, spoke with like 30 different business owners in a 2-day in-person workshop. You spoke about the 7 myths of influencer marketing. Can you briefly share with business owners here on this pod today, what are the 7 myths of influencer marketing? Or rather, let's start with the top 3 myths then.
The first biggest misconception is that they thought influencers marketing strategy is all about influencers, right? You get in the influencers to do a shout out and then that's it, right? But what we realized over the time, right, is that it's not so much, and it's certainly not the main reason why brands come to us. It's not just that, okay, Josh, what do you have for influencers? What kind of influencers you introduce to us, right? It has got a lot more to do with the back-end strategy. What kind of content to create? What kind of hook? what kind of call to actions, what is the marketing angle, right? And of course, how do you run the ads and whatnot, right? The other misconception is that people tend to see the results and then they stop, right? I'll give you an example. I spoke to a business owner before. It's our existing client, right? So they get an influencers campaign ready for his F&B branch. He sees the results. Then he say, okay, so basically I asked him, what do you want to do next, right? Then he say, okay, since this campaign is already working, let's stop and let's create another campaign, right? What is in my mind is that if let's say whatever is working on it, you don't want to just stop at there. You want to double down on what's working. That's always my philosophy. So instead, we suggest, okay, if let's say this similar content is working, why not we literally copy and paste the same structure and then we create another batch of content. Basically, we don't just stop there, right? We copy what is working and then we double down on it. So when I say double down, it could be running ads, it could be increasing the ad spend and whatnot, right? Yeah.
Okay, I like that. We need to do a bigger session on the full 7 myths, but I think you shared very high level. You didn't go deep on everything, of course, but I think that was a session that a lot of the business owners took value from. You basically debunked a lot of these misconceptions that a lot of business owners have when it comes to influencer marketing, content marketing online, even running ads. So I think that was great. Okay, if I move a bit deeper, right, I will share a little bit about how I started Social Jet and what we also got wrong in the early days. So when I first started Social Jet about 3 years ago, after I sort of quit my clothing line, I was doing e-commerce for about 6 years. I stopped that during COVID, pivoted, started my marketing agency, Social Jet. When I first started it, I think the main thing that I got wrong in the early days is like what you said, just running basic influencer campaigns organically and calling it an influencer strategy for brands. I think at the high level, 3 years ago, sure, that would still be a bit sexy. If you try to do that now in 2025, I think it becomes very thin. Because every single brand, every successful brand that we know, that we hear, that we see, they always have a back-end influencer strategy of some sort. That there is always a content strategy. There is always some sort of short-form videos, whether done in-house, by an agency, whether it's done by their own employees, or via influencers and content creators. So I think what we got wrong in the early days is just executing basic influencer campaign and calling it influencer marketing, selling it as influencer marketing. That worked okay for the first couple of months until the clients came back to us and said, hey, this doesn't really drive results, right? So that's when we started pivoting. And now what we're doing is really much more deeper content, not just giving influencer a product and asking them to create a simple video. Back then when we first started, it was just taking a selfie with the product, right? A static photo, which did quite okay, I think 3 years ago. But I think right now videos just perform way better. Short form videos, short form storytelling, that is doing way better. And of course, we drive it heavily with ads. I think if we do a breakdown of this pod, I think we have mentioned ads like so many times already. And I think it's still under leveraged. I think still a lot of business owners, marketers are not leveraging the power of paid media when it comes to content marketing. So yeah, I think we got wrong. We didn't prioritize ads at the early start. And then we couldn't drive bottom line results just completely relying on organic content. And then our database at the start was really, really small. I think we started with like 400-500 influencers back then. Now I think our database has grown to about 2,000 influencers locally in Singapore. Of course, we have capabilities, of course, with influencers outside of Singapore as well. But yeah, now of course, 3 years later, team has grown, everything has grown, a lot of different things that we're running. We have our own internal software that we're using as well. So I think we've come a long way here.
I mean, definitely. I mean, think about this, right? Every business starts from somewhere, right? When I first started my business, it's also the same thing. But literally, I was the only one that is running entire things. Basically, in Hokkien, we call bao ga liao lah. That means you do every single thing on your own. Payroll, administration stuff, cold calling, door knocking, whatever. It's all within your own, right? And it's a lot of burden on us starting a business. But I think definitely, if let's say you are doing something that's really adding value for the market, right? And people actually see it and people actually appreciate it. So that's the time that you realize, okay, there's actually a demand for your business, and that's how you can go from there.
Has there been a campaign that has changed your lens of social media marketing or influencer marketing in this case?
I don't think there's literally any campaign that changed my entire perspective. But what I can say is that every single campaign that I got involved, I learned a lot of things from it, and definitely it gave me some new insight. But it's not like flip my entire perspective, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So coming back to the campaign that we did earlier on, right? There's one particular campaign I remember quite clearly now, is that the client tends to micromanage a little bit, right? Not too much, but kind of micromanage, right? He was expecting that he knows every single thing, right? He think that he knows every single thing because of his years of experience, right? So there's a time that he started to micromanage everything and he say, okay, this have to follow this way and that thing have to follow my way or you are doing something wrong. So we kind of believe that, okay, he's a client is always right. But at a point of time, I realized that if let's say we are just following exactly what the clients want, chances are we might not able to deliver the kind of results that the clients really is looking for, right? So we stand firm and I say to him, I say, if let's say you engage us, that means you see value in what we are providing, running an influencer marketing for you. So why not take a step back, really rely on our expertise and let us handle everything for you. We do all the heavy lifting for you, right? And at the end, he agreed, step back a little while, right? And then I think literally this morning, I talked to him, we showed him the results. He was surprised. Why? Because the influencers that he thinks will be doing well is not performing that good. But the influencers that he kind of don't like, he doesn't really like the influencers, right? The way he talk, the way he present, end up to be top 2 in the ranking.
Yeah.
Any influencers that we are working with, right? It's not that you as a brand owner, you like it, or we as an agency, we like it or not. End of the day is that based on the data, based on the past record, based on numbers, determine which influencers works the best and what influencers, what kind of content can generally give you the best results that you want.
I think when you said that, that reminded me of something as well. I think when we first started out in the early days, we executed some basic campaigns at the start, drove some good results here and there. Clients were happy, but nothing fantastic, nothing groundbreaking, nothing life-changing for our clients. And then I think about 3 or 4 months in, we had this F&B client. We drove about 10 influencer videos for him, for his company. Came to us saying, oh, we spent 50K on video production and we didn't see any level of ROI. We couldn't assess that. We didn't see any measurable ROI from the 50K studio production videos. So, of course, we launched influencer videos for him. And then, of course, we doubled that down with ads using the influencer content. A long story short, within a 2-month campaign, we generated $250,000 in tracked sales for his company. It's an F&B brand. I'm not going to name drop it here, but if people want to check it out, it's on our website. So I think that was the first stepping stone where we really saw this is very measurable. And this really drove a lot of success for one specific client that we had in the early days. Moving on, I think a few months after that, we launched a specific event for one of our clients. And that specific event over 2 days generated more than 7 figures in track sales, purely from our marketing strategy, purely from our marketing funnel, from our influencers. So I think that was another mindset shift, another reality shift for us, for myself, even for my client, because my client couldn't believe that we could actually do that. When I said that, okay, I think our influencers can actually fill up your showroom, can actually fill up your entire space, right? I think he didn't really fully believe that. But when we actually did that, I think that sort of distorted a bit of that reality and debunked a lot of myths and misconceptions. So long story short, 7 figures in sales, filled out the showroom. This was an in-person event purely because of an influencer strategy that actually converted in person. So yeah, those were the early days. But now, of course, we're doing a lot more events, a lot more different campaigns, different industries. Yeah, but I think I can think of these 2 campaigns that really changed influencer marketing in my perception when we first started in the first couple of early months. Okay, let's talk about red flags in the industry, right? What would you say is the biggest red flag? I mean, Josh, you spoke to countless business owners, both when you were running a startup, when you exited, and now also at SocialJet, right? What is the common thread that you see, the common thing that you see after speaking to so many business owners? When they share with you their marketing problems, when they share with you, oh, my sales aren't good, or oh, I'm trying to launch this product. What is the common thing that you see?
I think the most common thing that I can see, right, it's not really about the results, but it's that they are not even looking at the numbers, right? During the discovery call, usually there's few questions I would love to ask, right? When I get him or her a little bit more comfortable to share about his business and whatnot, right? Then I will ask something like, okay, where do you think you guys are at in terms of your current situation? It could be how many sales that you are making. It could be how much of revenue that you are making, right? A lot of them initially when I thought, right, I don't feel comfortable asking that questions, right? The reason is pretty simple because I thought it's just the first call, right? I'm not 100% sure whether they are comfortable or not. So usually what I do, I'll ask for permission and I say, if let's say you're okay with that, if let's say you feel comfortable sharing with me, I'd love to know where are you at now in terms of sales, right? And chances are a lot of business owners, they don't even know where they're at. They could give something like, I think I'm at, I don't know, less than $500,000, or I think I'm less than 10K a month. They don't know exactly where they're at now.
No specificity.
No, that's terrible. I mean, in my own point of view, right? If let's say you don't know where's the number you are at currently, forget about figuring out where you want to be. Because it's always like that. You set a goal after you figured out where you are at currently, right? Then we can work on the marketing campaign or whatever sales strategy you want to close the gap. But now the problem is that if let's say you are not figuring out where you are at now, what are the likelihood that you will be able to close the gap? So I think that's the biggest thing that's really common talking to all the business owners.
Okay, so business owner, you really got to know your bottom line numbers, because as marketers, as consultants, we will quiz you on that. And if you don't know your bottom line numbers, then there will be a lot of leaky items from your business model that maybe we cannot fully solve. So I think knowing your numbers is very, very important. Okay, Josh, we have about 4 minutes left before I have to roll the outro. I'm going to role play a little bit, right? I'm going to be a prospect buyer. I'm going to be a brand right now, right? I'm going to have a quick sales call or rather consultation with you. Okay. Influencer marketing doesn't work for me. Your thoughts?
Oh, you're done with that?
Yeah, this influencer marketing doesn't work for me. I tried it before, didn't get results.
Would you be comfortable sharing with me a little bit more about why do you think it's not working?
Yeah, so basically I paid some influencers, I sent them my free product, I asked them to shout out for me. They received the product for free. I paid them a cash fee as well, about $100, $200, plus my free product worth $200. They posted for me, and then I didn't see any sales on my website.
Well, that's good to know. Thanks for sharing. But I would love to know, you were saying that you have sent out some products to the influencers and whatnot, right? How many of them did you actually approach?
I think I reached out to 10 influencers. 5 of them responded. 3 of them took on the offer.
How many is in your mind when it comes to the expectations?
In terms of sales?
Yeah.
I want to get at least 20K of sales per month.
Now, my next questions would be, what is the exact strategy that you are applying in this case, right? It sounds like you give them a product, you give them something, and then you are hoping for them to shoot the results, for them to shoot the content for you. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I give them the product, they receive the product, they are the influencers, so they create content for me. Then they post to their followers. Then I hope that their followers, they see the content, they like the product, they go to my website, they check out, and then ideally I can get 20K per month in sales.
Yeah, I mean, that's no offense by all means, but it seems to me that that's just like a pray and hope kind of strategy, right? For me, if that's you are the business owner, right? At the end of the day, praying is not some kind of strategy. Do you agree with me?
I believe in praying.
Yeah, you believe in praying. That's good. My thought is that if let's say you really want to see a significant result when it comes to getting the influencers to promote your product, and then you get the result back, is that you have to have a lot of strategy out behind, right? It's more. It goes more than just getting the influencers, send the product, and then just hope that he or she create a content that is going to convert, right? What is the call to actions? What is the hook? What is the content? What kind of marketing message that is it aligned with your brand? Did you ever think about all these things at the back?
No, I was hoping the influencer would do that for me, because I'm giving them a product and I'm paying them, I'm engaging them.
Okay, so hypothetically speaking, if let's say we as a social media agency, we as an influencer marketing agency, will be able to handle everything for you, and then we liaise with the influencers just to make sure that whatever content at the end of the day, whatever content the influencers create have to be aligned with that, and it drove you the sales. Would you be comfortable moving forward with us?
Sure, yeah, I want to know more, but I think I see value in that. But yeah, talking about ads, I don't want to spend money on Facebook ads. I don't want to spend $200 a day on ads, and then there's an additional 3K, 5K on ads every month. That is an additional cost for me.
I mean, how serious are you in making this work for you? I'm curious.
I want this to work. This is my business. This is my baby. I'm confident my products are great. I want people to hear about it.
Okay, so I don't know what kind of concept you have in mind, but to me, business at the end of the day is just a volume game, right? Combining with a right strategy, what left is just the numbers, right? Think about this. Let's say you are having 10 influencers to promote about your brand in this particular campaigns, right? 10 influencers, each of them is having like 15K followers, right? If let's say you were to do the math, 150K audience reach, does that make sense, right? But honestly speaking, 150K, realistically, right, you have like 20 to 30% audience reach in actual, right? So that means you are actually not targeting a lot of audience in that case. So if let's say you want to have a broader audience, what do you think you should do?
Bopian have to run ads.
Exactly. This is why for all the brands that we work with, for all the brands that we're surfing, in order for brands to really see results, we will always recommend to run ads with them.
Okay. So that's a wrap. Josh, thank you everybody for tuning in with us over this past hour or so, wherever you guys are tuning from. Hope you guys have learned a little bit more about influencer marketing, about creator content on social media. Yeah, we'll be here. Reach out to us. Josh, do you want to do anything else? Any outro?
No, I think by the time you're watching this video, chances are you already know where to find us. So if let's say you are really interested in hopping on a call to figure out how influencer marketing can best benefit your company, your business, you know where to find us.
All right, there we go. That's a wrap then. Thank you. See you
All
guys.
right, see
Bye
you
bye.
guys. Bye.